The most traditionalist group in the Catholic world has just made a move that could reshape its relationship with Rome for a generation. The Priestly Society of St. Pius X, the SSPX, has announced it will consecrate new bishops on July 1st without Vatican approval. Their Superior General, Father Davide Pagliarani, calls this an act necessitated by an objective state of grave necessity. For any Catholic, the word schism immediately comes to mind. This isn't just internal drama. It's a direct, public challenge to the Pope's authority as the visible center of unity. To understand how high the stakes are and what this means for every Catholic who cares about the Church's unity and tradition, we need to go back to the last time this happened and why it's happening again now. To grasp the gravity of this announcement, you must understand 1988. The SSPX was founded by Archbishop Marcel Lefebvre in 1970 to preserve the traditional Latin Mass and pre-Vatican II teachings. After years of tense negotiations with Rome over doctrinal issues and the legitimacy of the new Mass, Lefebvre reached a breaking point. Fearing his society and its sacramental work would die out, he took the most extreme step possible. He consecrated 4 bishops without a papal mandate. The Vatican's response was immediate and severe. Pope John Paul II declared that Lefebvre and the bishops had incurred automatic excommunication for the crime of schism. That 1988 consecration created a lasting wound. While the excommunications on the bishops were lifted in 2009 under Pope Benedict XVI as a gesture of goodwill, the SSPX's canonical status remains irregular. They are not in full communion with the See of Rome. Their priests cannot licitly exercise ministry in dioceses, and their sacraments, while considered valid, exist in a canonical gray area. Now, nearly 38 years later, the new leadership is choosing the same path. They are invoking the same logic of necessity, risking the same penalties, and potentially making a temporary separation a permanent fracture. So why would they do this? Father Pagliarani's statement provides their reasoning, which is a mix of the practical and the deeply theological. 1. The practical reason, sacramental survival. The SSPX argues its current bishops are aging. They travel the world to administer confirmation and holy orders to their faithful, as these sacraments typically require a bishop. Without new bishops, this global network of traditional sacraments, which they see as a lifeline in a church they believe is in crisis, would collapse. They claim they sought a solution from Rome last August and received a reply that does not in any way respond to our requests. 2. The theological reason, a state of emergency. This is the core of their argument. They operate on a thesis of emergency powers. They believe the post-Vatican II Church has entered a state of such profound doctrinal and liturgical crisis that the normal laws, like needing papal permission for consecrations, are suspended. They see themselves not as rebels, but as faithful Catholics preserving the unchanging tradition, while the mainstream church, in their view, has wandered into error. For them, ensuring the continuity of valid, traditional sacraments for the faithful who seek them is a higher duty than canonical obedience to a Rome they see as compromised. This directly contradicts the Vatican's view, articulated by Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger, the future Pope Benedict XVI, after 1988, which held that the Church is not ours, but his. No one may take her governance upon himself. From Rome's perspective, there is no state of necessity grave enough to justify defying the Pope's supreme authority. How will the Vatican, and Pope Leo XIV specifically, likely view this? 1. A rejection of dialogue. For years, Popes Benedict XVI and Francis pursued a path of dialogue with the SSPX. Pope Francis even granted their priest faculties to licitly hear confessions and witness marriages under certain conditions. This move is seen by many in Rome as a slap in the face to that decades-long effort, a signal that the SSPX leadership is no longer interested in reconciliation, but in building a parallel, independent structure. 2. Deepening of schism. Canonically, consecrating a bishop without a papal mandate is a crime punishable by excommunication, Canon 1382. The Vatican will almost certainly declare the new bishops, and likely those who consecrate them, excommunicated. This would formalize the schism and likely end any serious talks for the foreseeable future. 3. A dilemma for in-church traditionalists. This move creates a major problem for traditional Catholics who remain in full communion, like those attached to the FSSP or diocesan Latin Mass communities. They have argued that fidelity and tradition can coexist within the Church's structures. The SSPX's action reinforces the worst suspicions of critics who claim all traditionalists are inherently schismatic and disobedient. It will likely lead to increased scrutiny and pressure on even the most loyal traditional communities. The real insight here is that the SSPX's decision is a symptom of a much deeper issue, a catastrophic breakdown of trust. Trust in Vatican II. The SSPX fundamentally rejects key aspects of the Second Vatican Council on religious liberty, ecumenism, and the nature of the Church itself. They do not believe it can be reconciled with the Church's prior teaching. Trust in modern Church leadership. They view the hierarchy as having failed in its primary duty to guard the deposit of faith, pointing to widespread liturgical abuse, doctrinal ambiguity, and scandals. Trust in a negotiated future. After 50-plus years of existence, the SSPX's younger leadership may have concluded that Rome will never fully restore the tradition as they understand it. Therefore, securing their own future independently is the only option. For the average Catholic, this is a tragic spectacle. It represents the hardening of a fracture between two visions of Catholicism, one that sees obedience to the living magisterium, even when confusing, as essential, and another that sees fidelity to a perceived immutable tradition as the highest form of obedience to Christ. The SSPX's impending consecrations are more than a headline. They are a pivotal, sorrowful moment. They represent the choice of a permanent, separate existence over a difficult, imperfect communion. It is the closing of a door that many saints and popes worked to keep open. The fallout will affect all traditional Catholics and challenge the entire Church to answer, in an age of crisis, what is the true path to preserving the faith? Is it through separation to maintain purity, or through steadfast, suffering witness within the messy reality of the Church? What do you think? Is the SSPX justified by a state of necessity? Or is this a profound failure of ecclesial charity and obedience? Share your thoughtful reflections in the comments below. If you want to understand the forces pulling at the fabric of global Catholicism, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Thanks for watching.